Hello everybody, this is Tim here again, here with another movie review, this time for Fear Street Part 2. Now, if you've seen my review for the first one, I liked it. I thought it was a good, average movie. And if you hear any noise in the background, that's because obviously I'm doing this video outside because of all the trees and shit in the background. But yeah, this is for sure Fear Street 1978, I believe is what it's called. The same director, and we're also going to get one more of these, which is going to be another prequel called It Takes Place in 1666. Now, pretty much the story here is about a witch. This one takes place, we get to hear the story of back at this 1978 at this camp. It's kind of, there is some music in here, I think, that's actually a homage to like Friday the 13th, the early ones. We get some camp counselors like having sex or whatever, but if you notice in the movie, it only focuses on like the man's butt. You don't really get to see any breasts in the movie. Partially, I think that's because this movie is playing towards a younger audience, and also partially, I think that's because these movies are trying to be a little bit more modernized. I don't want to say woke because, like I've said before, all movies have agendas. But obviously, if they're deliberately avoiding showing the women's breasts, then you know something's going on here. Because the whole point of when you're doing like a throwback, like slasher type flick like this at a campground, you're going to be compared to Friday the 13th. And if you're going to try to ape Friday the 13th but without the female nudity, it's not going to go over too well. I'll just say this: this one has a lot more story in it. It felt longer than the first one. I'm not sure if it is or not, but it's basically about like these two sisters. This one just keeps getting picked on by this black hair girl who actually doesn't die in the movie. She's a total bitch to the whole movie, and I don't believe she dies from what I remember. I think she just kind of just gets punched in the face by the main red hair girl who I believe is on the show Stranger Things, and that's the last time we see her. I think she just gets knocked out. But it's pretty much about these two sisters who have kind of like don't really get along right now because one of them's father died or mother died or something like that, and or their dad left or whatever, and they just deal with it in different ways. They don't totally get along, and the red haired girl's just like picked on, called a witch and all that because of the town's history and everything about this witch that supposedly possesses people, makes them commit murders. And they discover like this cave, and there's these two pothead stoners in it, and the long haired guy gets killed by this dude that gets possessed. He's the dude with the axe who we saw in the first movie as like a killer zombie. I kind of like how it's like a prequel origin story for his character, but he's not very interesting. And the acting in this is fine for the most part. It's good to okay. Once again, this is still tame like the first one. It has more deaths here, but at the same time, because it has more deaths, most of the deaths are kind of off screen because a lot of them are kids at the camp that get killed, and they kind of get killed off screen. You just kind of see the axe come down on them. It's still pretty impactful, pretty well shot and well directed. The directing here is fine. There's an overuse of music and songs of the time period. It was also done in the other one that took place in 1994. The director does it again here. Um, the directing here is all right to good. Not sure if this director will have a life or future beyond these three Fear Street movies. I don't know. The directing here is all right to good, pretty much like it was in the first film, all right to good. Kind of an average director. As far as this film itself goes, by the time you get to the end, the two sisters are the only ones left, and one of them gets stabbed out, and the other one gets like axed to death. And one sister dies or whatever to save her red-haired sister, and we get to see her growed up, and she's the girl that was in the end of the last movie that the black chick or whatever met to link up with her telling her story so they can figure out how to stop the witch. And the movie ends with the chick from the last movie or whatever finding like the skeletal hand of the witch and touching it, and she sees like flashbacks to 1666 or whatever when the witch was killed. And that's going to be the next movie. I think they're bringing in like most of the cast members from this one and the first one for the next one. It's going to be like a prequel origin story. I get the feeling they're probably going to do a twist here where we find out the witch was like wrongly accused or whatever, and she's taking like vengeance on like the descendants or something of the people who killed her in the past or whatever, and they just kind of wrongfully accused her or set her up or something. I get the feeling there's going to be some kind of twist like that, and I like the fact that the cop from the first movie was in this one as like a kid. That was kind of neat, but at the same time they really drive that home in the movie and try to like to put it in your face. It's like, oh, prequel origin. You didn't really need to take it too far like they do in the movie. It could have just you would have just had the name. That would have been enough. Um, all in all, there's more kills here, but most of them take place off screen. And the killer, he is just kind of okay, but the killers in the first one weren't that great either. It was just kind of cool and more unique because we were seeing them for the first time. So them being like zombies and all that was kind of neater. The first one I gave like a 3 out of 4. I thought it was a good average like horror flick for young adults. I liked it. Watching this Fear Street Part 2, I would give 2 out of 4. This is an okay time waster if you like this series or if you like horror movies in general, and for the young audience that it's made for, it's an okay time waster. The third one looks. I'm not a big fan of period pieces. It looks worse to me because I'm not a fan of period pieces. But I'll give it a shot and I'll be fair with it, just like I am with every movie. And even though I will say that neither one of these movies are really made for me because I am kind of too old for these flicks, even though I don't mind the Fear Street books. When I was a kid, I didn't mind them. But yeah, for what they are, though, the first one was good average entertainment, and this one is okay entertainment. It feels longer. There's way more story here. Too much story. There should have been a lot more killings. They should have just focused on having everybody at the camp and having them chased by the killer and just ape Friday the 13th. Really, that's really all this movie needed to do. Um, there really didn't need to be anything else to this movie. I mean, you could have thrown in the story of the two girls, or whatever, bonding, but you should have focused the whole movie on the sisters if that's what you wanted to be the heart of the movie, like the love relationship was in the first one. You should have just had them like going up against the killer or whatever, and maybe the red haired girl like getting blamed for the killings or something. You could have done something like that. That would have been more intelligent and better written. The writing here, there's more story here, but the writing here is worse and less well put together, less focused. This script is. But yeah, as for what it is, it's entertaining enough. The killer gets like a bag put over his head, a sack or whatever. That he looks like Jason from Friday the 13th Part 2. Obviously a nod um, by R.L. Stein. I'm assuming these are based off the books, or maybe these are just like invented, like as inspired by the books to be like an origin story for the book series, maybe. But either way, it still felt like something R.L. Stein would come up with as like a nod to Jason from Part 2. But yeah, all in all, it's an okay movie. If you like the first one, I see no reason why you couldn't at least get a time waster movie out of this. But yeah, it was okay. It was totally harmless. I don't have anything really bad to say about the movie. It's just kind of there. It's just okay. I'll probably never watch this one again. If the third one is really good, or at least as good as the first one, then maybe that would make up for it. If I was ever like really bored and just wanted to marathon them, then I would probably watch this one again. But it's not something I would really go out of my way to see again by itself. But yeah, all in all, that's pretty much it for Fear Street 1978. So thank you guys for watching, and I'll see you again.